I'm really pleased to be joined on Not the Andrew Marr Show by Orr, who is a conscientious objector from Israel. This is the first interview I've had where we don't see the person who I'm interviewing, and we hear them. That's for kind of obvious reasons. How are you doing, Orr?
I'm doing okay, I guess.
This issue of conscription in Israel. I'm just wondering if you could tell us what the law on conscription is there.
So Israel has a very wide law about conscription. So the law doesn't only apply to all genders. And when I say all genders, it means also queer, non-binary, trans people. It's also apply on citizens. So it includes people with Israeli citizenship that don't live in Israel. And it includes people that don't have citizenship, but has residency in Israel. So it's a very wide law. There is all these little underlines to this law that if you live a certain amount of time out, or your parents are blah blah blah, but we don't need to go into that. It just means that the law is very wide and includes a lot of people. Not all people that are included in the law actually get a recruitment order. For example, by the law, Palestinians that have Israeli citizenship are obligated to join the army, but the majority of them will never be called because they don't really want Palestinians to join the Israeli army. Some of them do, if they're some Bedouins, some Druze people get called, and so on. So,
and what age do you get called?
The drafting is from the age of 18.
So before you're 18, I suppose there's a lot of, I could call it indoctrination or pro-IDF propaganda that you must receive when you're growing up.
Yeah. Very much. I would say even more than that. I would say that I will call it indoctrination. And I will say that personally, I feel weird to address the Israeli army as IDF. It's a part of this indoctrination to make the world and Israeli people believe this is a defense force. When in practice, the majority of things that are happening are the control on the Palestinian people, if it's in the West Bank or Gaza. So I generally don't use the term IDF. You have soldiers coming, visiting kindergartens and schools and elementary schools and high schools, and our songs, so many of them is around the army, and our radio channel and our books, the culture, and it's just the fact that literally from the age of 0, you know that you're gonna be a soldier, and so much resources go for you to understand that you are going to be a soldier and that you're going to have the motivation to do so, because it's not enough just to have a law to tell you to go to the army. You need to be totally into it and obligated to do it and believe that this is not only the right thing, it's the only thing that you're supposed to do at the age of 18. And there is no other choice, because if you will choose anything else, then you're a traitor, then you are, you don't care about your society, you only take from the government, but you never bring back. It's this social, economical, stress on you to do that.
So by the time you're 18, you're kind of primed to be signed up for the army then in Israel. I mean, with all that going on in the background before then, I have to say, you know, what you were drafted in at 18. Why was it that you were not willing to go along with that?
I refused to be drafted at the age of 18 because, well, so many reasons. Mainly around the occupation, because I was lucky enough to learn about the occupation before I was 18 and actually see how it looks and how it acts and what Palestinians are going through and have Palestinian friends. And I didn't want to take part of what destroys their everyday life. And also I refused to join because it's a patriarchate, violent system, where women and queer people are counted as less, and experience a lot of violence. And there is a high chance of being traumatized by the army, and by serving in the army. And because the army destroyed the climate, and because the army destroyed animal life and habitats. So really, so many reasons that made me choose not to take part of such a violent organization.
At 18, to be courageous enough to speak out on that and to say no. I mean, was there anyone that you'd known before who'd done the same? Did you have any examples of people who you followed, or was it just something that came to your mind?
I will start and say that I think you touched a really good point. It's really hard in the age of 18 to go against your society. Most people will not be able to do it through the social pressure and mental pressure. Also in countries that are less militaristic than Israel. Yes, I was lucky enough to meet Palestinians before I was 18, and I was lucky enough to meet Israeli Jewish people that made these decisions before to not join the army and declared their refusal. So even though I didn't have my family and friends supporting my act, I had other activists, and I had New Profile as well that supported me through my refusal and my time in the prison.
Right. So can I just go back on something there? You say your family were not supportive. So did no one from your family do the same as you?
One sister did. She didn't declare, but she found her ways out of the army. The rest, no, they believe in the army and they believe this is the right thing to do.
And did you fall out with them in a big way? Have they spoken to you since? What's been their response?
During the time in jail, different parts of my close family and my extended family had different reactions. Some people from my extended family, yes, we're not in contact at all since then. And my mom had a really hard time with it. She wouldn't talk to me in that time. And now we're very close. So yeah, I think it was hard for my family. And it was hard for me that they had a hard time and they didn't support me. And I think for me, it felt differently because when you're 18 and you make such a decision, you need extra support and you want your family to support you.
Yeah.
So it was a really hard thing for me that they didn't. But my father, even though he didn't agree with me, did come to visit me a few times in jail. And I had my sister that was supportive, one of my sisters. So yeah.
So they asked you to join. You said no. And then when did they start talking about jail?
Well, right away.
Really?
So the law says that the day the army decided you're going to be drafted, you're officially counted as soldier. So even if you didn't do the action of drafting and all the stuff you need to know to do on the first day of becoming a soldier, if it's to take shots or take your uniforms or whatever. Even if you don't do it officially by the government and by the army, you are counted as a soldier. Even if you never arrive to that day, even if 10 years you keep skipping and running away to actually go to the army and declaring or telling them you're not joining. So by you becoming a soldier, you also lose, your health insurance, your civilian health insurance, and so on. And it also means that you're not being judged in regular, civilian court. You're being judged in a military court, which means it's commander, probably very young people that have too much power in their hands and no, written law to say how much they can give to you, and they can play with it a lot. So it just depends on the commander that was free that day to make the decision of how long you will sit in jail, as much as he can by his, degree in the army. And then, for example, you say, no, I'm not going to join the army, and some commander gives you 2 or 3 weeks, and then you finish these 2 or 3 weeks in jail, and that day you go out of jail, you're being sent back into the army base, and they tell you, okay, you did your time, now join the army. And then you say, no, I'm not going to join the army, and then you're being taken again to a commander to judge you, give you as much as he made the decision to give you in jail, and then it goes back and forwards until you get released. So you actually don't know how long you will sit in jail, and there is no maximum time of how long you will sit in jail.
And so how many times were you in jail? How many spells did you have?
Actually, I don't remember how many I had, like, court cases, but I was in jail. I was in prison for 4.5 months, and there was another like a month to 2 months that I was going into detention centers and stuff like this.
And I mean, what were the conditions like in the jail?
Well, I will first say much better than any Palestinian that will sit in jail. Palestinians suffer a lot in jail, and they have very low condition, and they're in danger of being abused in jail as well. So it's an army jail. The perspective of army jail is to educate you. So they try to make you more obedient, which is, yeah, it's like a boot camp. It's very annoying. It's dirty. It's crowded. You're being treated like shit, but no one physically harms you. It wasn't fun. Yeah, it was a hard time for me, but I also knew I'm doing the right thing. So I think in my mental state, I was very strong in my position and believed that, I'm free in my spirit, so I could go through this time.
Did you have chances to speak to people and to find support within there? I mean, like you said, your parents went there every so often. Were other people able to come and visit you?
Not so many visits, but I did find friends in jail. Some of them are still friends of mine. Yeah, I had the other people in jail, and when when you have a lot of time, then you get close and you have deep talks and you learn. I learned a lot about what's going on in the army when I was in jail, from the other people that was sitting with me.
Yeah. All right, so it actually made you stronger in a way because of the people you met and the things you learned from there.
Yeah.
All right, so it didn't work. It didn't work very well. So, having been in jail through that experience of being a conscientious objector, you now support people who have going through the same situation.
Yeah. New Profile support everyone that made the decision to not go to the army or continue their army service or reserve service. Not all of them get into jail. Each one have their own reasons, but we believe all reasons to not go to the army are political. So yeah, we support everyone, whichever is their process to in this process of going out of the army.
So, I mean, being in Israel, what is the media coverage like of what's happening in Gaza, for example? I mean, in the United Kingdom, I mean, we get a pretty censored view of it from our mainstream media, but people look on social media and they can see horrific footage of what's happening and the reality of the bombardment and also the taking away of food and water and people starving in Gaza. Is that possible to be? Can people see that in Israel? And I mean, is that something that's available to them? Can they get that on social media, or is that blacked out?
I will say this is a really good question. Because most people that are not in Israel, even if they visited or been to Palestine or whatever, don't understand the amount of control that there is in people's mind and how much narratives controls what you actually see, not what you physically see, what actually goes in. So there is a lot, most of the media is controlled by the right wing. There is really several little ways of getting information in Hebrew that is real and gives the bigger picture. Not only that, like, for example, in UK, you have all these YouTube things that are blocked, or Netflix. So there is the same in Israel. There is blocked Al Jazeera you can't see in Israel, and so on. So yeah, there is a blocking of information, but more than this, there is this narrative that everything that is against Israel is anti-Semitic. And there is this, there is a lot of fake news going on in the world about what's happening in Palestine and in Gaza. And then Israel is using this fake news to kind of prove, which is not a real proof, but to kind of prove to Israelis that, you see, they're lying and everything they're saying is a lie and this is not what's actually happening. And even when they see, even if they see a video on social media, because social media is a wonderful instrument for these things, even when they see this video and they see horrible things going on, it doesn't really go through. And it doesn't go through for many reasons. One, because they are stuck. Say, I'm also, my life stopped as well in a way on the 7th of October, but my life has stopped in the way of, I feel more obligated today to stop the occupation and the war. Not that I didn't do it before, but today even more. Other people on the 7th of October went to, there is not going to be peace. All Palestinians are terrorists. So if we bomb people in Gaza and someone sees in social media the bombing of the people, they're like, we have to do it because this is Hamas. And if we don't destroy Hamas, they will destroy us. And another thing, I'm vegan, and I know that a lot of people in the world know what's happening in the meat industry, but they continue to eat meat because they have to continue their comfortable life. And it's the same with people in Israel. Even if they know what's going on there, they physically see what is going on in Gaza, they have to ignore it and not acknowledge it to continue their everyday life. So there is a whole spectrum of social, psychological dissonance and social instruments to make you or believe in this war or just not really see it, which is strong. Like, I look, for example, you gave the example of the UK. People in the UK, you see them talking and you see that they have too many people, not everyone, obviously, but too many people don't have the wider perspective of, for example, the UK selling arms to Israel and how much money is the UK earning from this war. Or they don't even know that Britain was the colonizer of Palestine and Israel and a big part of why this situation is going on, or they don't know about colonialism of the UK happening today, or they go to museums and they see things from Egypt, for example, and they don't understand this is stolen, colonialist, orientalistic acts. So all these social pressure that goes on Israelis goes to everyone in the world just by what their specific government is building as a narrative to make them not see the reality.